Chiefs win the Super Bowl.
Chiefs win. Cry, Eagles, cry.
Great, excited to be back in the league.
You know, every day I got the Three Stooges in the studio with me is a good fucking day.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
So let's make sure he gets that bag.
Frauds, frauds! Woo!
Justin's way ahead in picks. That's all that you need to fucking know.
Show's over.
Show's over. We're going home. I'd like to welcome you back to another page of the Playbook Sports Podcast.
What's going on, everybody? Welcome back to the Playbook Sports Podcast, where tonight I'm bringing to you something a little special, something I've been thinking about doing for quite a while now, and something, unfortunately, I just saw posted on YouTube, so someone beat me to it, but it's something I wanted to do. It's something I enjoy talking about. I love the NFL draft. Even before I started doing this show, I've always been a huge fan of the draft and just talking draft, talking about these prospects, and just looking at how they do throughout their NFL career. I'm a huge fan of that. You know, one of my pride and joys of my draft talking, I should say, is I was huge on Lamar Jackson coming out of college. Obviously, dude's won an MVP. I was real bullish on him being good, but also I've taken my fair share of losses. I was a big Johnny Manziel guy, like we all were. Who didn't want Johnny Manziel to succeed? You know, if you were in the age range where you were kind of growing up watching him play, you had to root for him. You just couldn't root against the dude. And yeah, he was a total bust. Sorry, Johnny. But something I'm doing today is I am looking back at the 2020 NFL draft, and something I want to give all of these prospects at least a few seasons in the league before you can properly grade them. As you'll see, some of them could have fantastic rookie seasons and then just totally fall off. And so what I'm going to do is I'm going to go through, I'm going to give them a grade for how they've looked so far. I'm going to cut this up into two parts. So this first part will be picks 1 through 16, and then the second part that comes out it will be 17 through 32. So let's just get right into this, guys. The first pick in the 2020 NFL Draft, Joe Burrow, quarterback, LSU. That's an A+, baby. He has been fantastic for them. Rookie season got hurt, but then he bounced back, and he's led them to consecutive AFC Championship games, including a Super Bowl run for a team that hadn't done anything at all. I actually think that was the first Super Bowl Cincinnati's played in. I'll probably sound stupid if I'm wrong, but I genuinely think it was. He looks every bit the part of a franchise quarterback. He will be in Cincinnati for years to come. They are going to have to pay this man. He is looking at a big old payday. Good for him. But yeah, that's an A+ pick. Next up, we've got at pick number 2, we have Chase Young. Went to Washington football team at the time, now the Washington Commanders. And he came out with a ton of hype. Chase Young was, he was the next Joey Bosa, the next stud defensive end that was like a Myles Garrett type, just going to wreak havoc on the league. And his rookie season, he looked fantastic and looked every bit the part of that. Since then, he's only played 12 games in the last 2 seasons and has definitely kind of fallen off. He's no longer, I couldn't tell you last time really people were talking about Chase Young. Maybe he's still really good, but injuries have plagued him. Like I said, he's only played 12 games in the last 2 seasons out of 34 possible. So it hurts that he's not on the field as much. His production's taking a hit. I'm giving him a C. You guys are going to notice a trend here. For players that I kind of view as incomplete and hard to grade even after 3 years, I like to give them a C-ish grade. They haven't done enough to show me they can be an A or a B, but they also aren't bad enough to be a D or an F. So we'll have a few C's in there where it's like, well, we'll talk about it. Pick number 3 was Jeff Okudah, corner out of Ohio State. So back-to-back Ohio State players. Going to Detroit Lions. I don't like how this one looks 3 years later. I'm giving this one a D+ because he has shown flashes of the talent that he was touted as coming out of Ohio State. He has been injured most of his career. Started to kind of play well here. I think it was the end of last year. He looked solid-ish. And then this year he was hurt for the beginning. And then when he came back, he looked like the bust Jeff Okudah from his first season. So D+. This isn't an F because I think he could still grow into a good corner. He's got all of the intangibles. He's got the size and the speed. So I'm giving him a D+ with hope that he improves with time and with a better team around him too. Pick number 4, Andrew Thomas. This one, if you'd asked me after his rookie season what I thought, it wasn't going to be pretty. However, he has really come on in the last 2 seasons or so. Andrew Thomas is the left tackle of the future. He will be protecting Daniel Jones' blind side for years to come. I'm giving that one a B+. There were really good tackles still on the board. This was a really good tackle class, especially when they were all drafted. And after the first year or so, it was like, holy shit, this is a crazy good draft class. But he has really come on of late, so B+ for him. Next up, we've got my boy, Tua Tagovailoa, quarterback out of Alabama to Miami, A+. No, I'm just kidding. I'm giving Tua a C. And let me explain that one. This one might be the longest kind of breakdown of all of them. So the first year coming back from a hip injury, he doesn't know how to fall anymore. And obviously people love to joke about him learning how to fall. When you take a serious injury to your lower half, especially on your hip, you guys, when you fall, think about it. Your hip normally hits first. He has tried everything he can to protect his hip. And he's taught himself how to fall to protect his hip. That is leading to other types of injuries, like hitting his head first instead of his hip first on the ground. So coming back from a major injury, the end of the 2020 season, he showed a couple of flashes where you're like, okay, this guy could be good. This guy could be good. His second season under Brian Flores, I blame Brian Flores a lot for the slow start to his career, honestly, and the weapons around him. You can't really tell how good a quarterback is until you surround them with weapons. And, ask Josh Allen. Josh Allen was widely considered a bust until Stephon Diggs got there, and all of a sudden it's like, oh, hey, he's throwing it to the open guy, and the open guy's making moves, and all of a sudden this guy's really good. So you just need somewhat of a safety blanket. And, Tua was throwing the ball to, a banged-up Devontae Parker and Mac Hollins. No disrespect to Mac Hollins, of course. Was playing behind the 32nd ranked offensive line. Like, they weren't doing anything to support him. And, yes, the defense was good, and maybe they could have been better, with this or that, but the offense was no good. And the second year, kind of the same story. Offense, I did not enjoy watching us play football because it was boring. It was all defense, and you just had to hope that maybe you'd score 17 points. And you figured if we score 17, I like our odds, but it's kind of hard for us to score 17, which is really sad. This year, though, Dolphins finally surrounded him with some talent. Some talent. Tyreek Hill, one of the top 3 wide receivers in the NFL, absolutely had a crazy season with us. Jalen Waddle's back-to-back 1,000 yards. He looks like an absolute stud. I'm excited to regrade the 2021 draft because Dolphins crushed that draft. Not so much in this one. But I would give him a B here. I think talent-wise and what he's shown us statistically, I think a B is fair for Tua, in my opinion. But I drop him to a C because of 2 things. The injury concerns and who was taken right after him. You can't help it. You just have to compare who was taken as quarterbacks, especially who was taken before who. And the next guy, who I'll just go right into, Justin Herbert, has been fantastic. He is a stat-stuffing QB. He honestly is the second coming of Phillip Rivers. And that's really not what the Chargers fans probably want to hear when they listen to this. But this guy is going to score, points on points on points. He's going to have the 5,000 passing yard seasons. He's going to have the 30, 40 passing touchdowns. But he's going to blow a 27-point lead to the Jags. And no, he doesn't play defense, so he can't stop the Jags from scoring. But they were winning 27-0, and they didn't really score again. That's not acceptable. You can't have that, especially when he's got the weapons there. You've got Austin Eckler, who was awesome. You've got Keenan Allen, who even as he's aging is still just an absolute technician on his routes. You've got Mike Williams, who's a go up and get it guy. You've got some speedsters, and you've got a solid offensive line, man. You can't blow that game. You just can't, especially because now, we're looking at Trevor Lawrence is surpassing him already and all these other things. But Herbert himself as a talent, absolutely great pick. That's an A. That's definitely an A. I give him an A instead of an A+ because he doesn't have the postseason success yet. But that's an A for them. Next up, pick 7, we have Brown from Carolina. And I want to say it's Derek Brown, but I just feel like that's not right. But yeah, defensive tackle out of Auburn. Guys, he's a solid player. I'm giving him a B+. I think he's one of the building blocks for them for the future as they go forward. Run stuffer, just kind of a high motor guy. Him and Brian Birds on the same line is scary. Carolina just needs to build up the rest of the team because the rest of the team is really bad. But hopefully they figure that out as they've traded up to pick number 1, so maybe they'll be getting a quarterback here. Pick number 8, Isaiah Simmons, linebacker safety hybrid out of Clemson, goes to Arizona. This one's a C for me. Kind of an average one because I don't think Arizona knows what the hell they're doing. I'm interested to watch Gannon get a hold of him and see how he does with Gannon as kind of his, as the defensive-minded coach because it just hasn't worked. But Arizona just had another linebacker leave their team who immediately was much better somewhere else in Hassan Reddick. Left Arizona and flourished. And I'm hoping Isaiah Simmons, they start using him as the chess piece he is. The guy is so versatile, can play anywhere on the defensive side of the ball. Very talented coming out of Clemson. Loved watching him play. Hopefully he gets a shot. Pick number 9. This is our first F. C.J. Henderson, corner out of Florida. Now, I'm not grading the player. I'm grading the pick. So remember that for this one, because I don't think C.J. Henderson is an F corner. He's not, crazy worth picking at number 9. Probably not if they had a redo. There's plenty of better options for them. But they traded him after this first season. So they had him for 1 year and got rid of him. And I don't think he's done anything spectacular in the league up to this point. And if you're already giving up on the 9th overall pick a year in, and it's a corner too, who was a really highly touted corner coming out, that's not a good look, and that's an F in my book. Next up, pick number 10, Jedrick Wills, offensive lineman I believe he was out of Alabama. I could be mistaken. But goes to Cleveland. I've got him as like a C-. He's given up 17 sacks in 3 seasons. But that Cleveland offensive line can run the ball. He's a great run-blocking offensive lineman. Would prefer to see a little bit more in pass pro. Now, is that due to receivers not getting open and maybe lackluster quarterback play? That's definitely possible. But you just hate to see 17 sacks allowed in 3 seasons. That's more than 5 a year, which isn't crazy when you think about it, but you just don't like to see that. So I'm giving him, C+. We'll go C+ on him. Pick number 11, we have Mekhi Becton, the absolute giant offensive tackle out of Louisville, going to the New York Jets. This one I'm giving a D. He has only played 15 games in 3 seasons. He didn't play at all and he played 14 his rookie year. 14 his rookie season, played 1 his second season, and 0 this past season. Injuries, which you just hate to see for somebody who has all the physical attributes in the world. I mean, this guy's 6'7", 360 pounds, and coming out of college, he was pushing 400. He was a big, big boy. But he just can't stay on the field. And, a common knock that we see in the NFL, the best ability is availability, and he has not been available for the Jets, and they're looking to get a different tackle. I would not be surprised if they try and get one at 13 here to replace him, because he hasn't done, he just hasn't been on the field. You have to be on the field. Next up, pick 12. I really don't even want to talk about this one much. It's Henry Ruggs to the Raiders, who just absolutely crushed this draft, like they typically do. That's a big fat F. I mean, a big ol' F. That is just ugly. It was sketchy then, considering who was on the board for wide receivers. I mean, we'll talk about these guys, but CeeDee Lamb and Jerry Jeudy both being on the board here. And Justin Jefferson. Obviously, we didn't think Justin Jefferson would turn out to be the best wide receiver in the NFL 3 years later. But the fact that they're all on the board and they chose Henry Ruggs, who, was involved in a fatal car accident, a lot of stuff around that. Not good. He's out of football. Yeah, F. Moving on. Pick number 13 was Tristan Wirfs. That's an A pick. He has been very solid for Tampa Bay. And there's been talk of them not keeping him. It's not because of talent. The talk around not keeping Tristan Wirfs is because they can't pay him because they are in salary cap hell. Hopefully they find a way to figure that out, because he has been a very, very solid, top-of-the-line right tackle for them since he has arrived. Pick 14, Javon Kinlaw to San Francisco. I'm giving that one a C-. He hasn't played a ton, honestly. He's played 45 games. Sorry, that's not true. He's played 26 games, and he's only got 45 tackles. There we go. And last season, the 2022 season, he only had 4 combined tackles, 2 assisted tackles, 0 sacks. All of his production came in his rookie season. I don't know if he's just having trouble staying on the field, but the fact that they just went out and gave Javon Hargrave a big old bag of cash does not bode well for him coming back, in my opinion. So that one's a C-, mainly because he's been injured, and we just haven't seen him on the field much at all. Would love to see him out there regularly to give him a proper grade. But that pick itself right now is a C- since they just devoted millions and millions of dollars to that position because he's not doing what they drafted him to do. Pick 15, we've got Jerry Jeudy, wide receiver out of Alabama. This one's a C because he's had lackluster quarterback play his entire time. I mean, this guy came out as one of the most polished receivers, probably like he was getting comparisons to Calvin Ridley. Super polished route runner, maybe not the most athletic guy, but he's just going to get open. And was really excited to watch him play with Russell Wilson this past season. And then Russell Wilson had the worst season of his whole career. And Nathaniel Hackett, they just didn't work in Denver. And I am interested to see how it goes with Sean Payton. There's been rumors that they're kind of shopping him around. I'd be interested to see what the asking price is for him. Because I think with the right system and the right quarterback, this guy can still be an absolute monster. And then pick 16 here, we've got A.J. Terrell, cornerback, going to Atlanta. This one's an A, man. He's one of the best cover corners in the league right now. on a team that's really just sort of devoid of talent. Sorry, Atlanta and Atlanta fans, you guys kind of stink. But you know who doesn't stink is A.J. Terrell, and you better keep him around if you want any hope at doing anything in the future. Super talented corner. Love that pick for them.